that's so key, you know, to like take your partner loves you, your partner's there, you're in this together. So like listen to each other. I always thought like he knows me the best, more like better than anybody. And so if he's telling me I'm going too hard or I'm fighting, you know, then I should listen because he wants the best for me and our relationship. I hope that's the case for most of the people out there. But I know that relationships they're so difficult too. And this is the hardest thing you'll ever go through.
In the last episode, we talked about the actual long fertility journey that you had, Erin. So thank you for coming back. And now we're going to share something a bit more nitty gritty, which is a reality for most people going through fertility challenges during pregnancy and postpartum. And that is your direct relationship with your partner in the bedroom. And we're talking about intimacy here. So if you're okay with it, coming from your point of view, can you share with us, you know, were you able to keep the sexy on, or it's like, oh my gosh, not at all?
I think it definitely came and went at different times. There were for sure periods of our whole fertility journey where one or the other, you know, lost their mojo or feeling like I am not sexy right now, or I'm not, you know, like in a space where I feel like I can, you know, do this. And so just doing other things like watching a movie together, just spending time together, just making the time to still, you know, put the effort on the relationship. I think it was helpful. But there's nothing sexy about infertility. Nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, you're robbed of the sexy that is about baby making, you know? And so our babies are actually conceived in a place that doesn't have that spark, that chemistry, that, you know, that love that exists in a man and a woman or a relationship, you know, where that chemistry is there. And I always wonder actually about the long-term effects of that for the IVF babies. Like I've actually thought, I wonder if there's an impact on them because there wasn't that like initial like spark chemistry thing that was happening at the time, you know? Maybe the embryologists need to put on some romantic music in the lab and do some, you know, things to, I was on a podcast for a friend a few weeks ago. We were having this conversation and I thought, that's so funny. But maybe it would help.
But the mood. Yeah,
it's a mood.
I think after the kind of transfer and the communication that you have with your partner, I think that is really key, you know, and even with, you know, if they're like, I think that there's no evidence to that, thankfully, that it impacts our children. So
no signs, no evidence or anything for sure. It's probably just my own thought process because it does feel like it's something that's being taken away because you had to, and there's so many things that were robbed of on this journey, you know, the pregnancy test, you know, I mean, you can still have that, but you have to wait for the beta and then you have to wait for the second beta and the fourth beta and, you know, and then the telling your parents, you know, it being a big surprise for everybody, you know, that I could go on and on and on. There's so many things that you're just robbed of being on this journey. But we make it as special and intimate as possible. We work with the tools that we have.
Is there any, besides kind of making the recommendation to have movie nights and kind of connect, maybe going for walks, are there any recommendations you've heard after the fact that you think, oh, if I had done that, maybe that would have helped us a little bit?
That's a good question. Nothing comes like right to the front of my mind, but I'll think on it as we have this conversation. And if something pops up, then for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you guys, you know, if you refer back to our last podcast where we interviewed you, talking about you guys kind of even just going through the process, how you communicated was amazing, and just diving into like, what would life look like without babies? What was that kind of month conversation like? And did you feel like you were able to kind of reconnect in that, you know, space?
I know for myself, and this is getting personal, but like I'm very good at compartmentalizing my emotions and my thoughts and my, you know, feelings. It's how I remain productive. I kind of pride myself in that, being able to like, just going to take this and put it over here for a while and close the door and then move on. And so I didn't find that it impacted a whole lot, like our day-to-day life. Things were kind of just business as usual. And it was this thing that was operating over here for us. And I know it's different for every single couple. Some people impacts the day-to-day because every single emotion, every single feeling is impacted by this thing that's like right in the center of the relationship. For us, it didn't feel like that as much. We were able to just kind of life as usual. We had lots going on. We were renovating a house. We were, there was lots of other projects.
Distractions, lots of
distractions.
distractions.
Distractions is a great word for it, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, but it also sounds like, when we talk about, maybe putting the sexy on is a little off, right? But when we speak to intimacy
Mm-hmm.
does and can require communication. And you really handled your communication well with your husband.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, in all that you're saying, I think that it's like, well, how is your communication with your partner? Are we communicating in any way beyond being busy in the day-to-day? Right? Do we set a little moment of time to connect? Do we watch movies together, or are we completely having separate lives?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of intimacy.
The word intimacy, into you. How does that go? Into
me, I see.
Into me, I see, or into me, I see. That's right. Yeah. Or you, I see,
Yes.
like, I think it's important that you see each other. Like, if you can really listen and see each other where you are in this journey and just the journey of life. But this is an intense journey within the journey of life. So just getting each other, I think, is really key. Yeah. And taking that moment to let each other have a moment where you're pissy or angry or sad and cry, like to process your emotions. I think that's really key, because we do have to compartmentalize in order to keep functioning. But then you need those moments where you just bawl your eyes out and
thank you so much, Tanya, for addressing this, because this is winding me back to a little conversation I had with you, Erin. Because I think what happens when people are trying to conceive, they're like looking for the magic bullet and what else can I do? And, what is the secret sauce to this equation and all that stuff. And you told me a story about you going to the Canadian Fertility Show and you were like keen on getting as much information, going to as many talks as possible, because that's what it was. It was like a day full of lectures.
Yes.
Right? So can you speak to me about this, because it really touched my heart about because you sat on my lecture. So tell me like what happened, like where your mind was at going there, and then what actually happened, and then how it had you be more present, perhaps even to your partnership.
Yeah, for sure. So that story is so important to me, because I was pretty early on in my journey, probably just still in the IUI stage that year. And we were at all the lectures at the fertility show, and Mary got up to speak, and it was like the whole place changed. Like the whole feeling in the room went from being like this very clinical, scientific sort of stories and people talking on the stage to Mary, who was like, how's everybody here? How's everybody doing? And just got like right down to our level and told her own story and just engaged with us in a way that nobody else had that entire day. And I was like, oh, this is what I came here for. Okay, what does this person what does Mary have to say? Mary, we bought her book. We were like, we'll follow you anywhere, Mary Wong, because she was just so inspiring. Just the way that you were able to relate to everybody in the room, and not just like lead a clinical scientific talk. It was just so beautiful. And from there, I've just always admired you and your work and just the way that you communicate with your patients and the people in the infertility and the fertility space in general. But I think it's so important to have so many different voices on our journey. I know, back to the partner thing, I'm a verbal processor. I don't know about you too, but I have to talk and just talk it until it's dead, or else I don't ever resolve. Like I need to do that in order to get to my resolve. And my partner, he gets to the point where he's like, I need you to find somebody else to process with. That's why I have a good therapist. That's why, and so I have my people in my life that are also partners of mine, I would say, in terms of like how I resolve and how I work through things. And then I can come back to my marriage and it can be more positive because I've been able to work through these things. He's a really good internal processor. He can just figure it out on his own. Whereas I need some people in my life. So I have those designated people so that I can get to the bottom of the thing, so that it doesn't because I don't talk him to death, because that would probably be negative for our relationship. But you have to know yourself. And I think that's a huge part of it too.
Well, what you brought up here is also super important, because basically what you're telling us is, I did not rely on him to be everything for me.
Right. Yeah. I don't think you can. I mean, well, first of all, there's already like a disconnect because we have this problem that we have to solve together, right? You can't be everything for each other. Did you
No.
find that on your journey too, Mary?
Oh gosh, I knew that right from the get-go. It's like, we can't rely on our partners for everything. They can't. It's impossible. It's not good for the relationship. So when we
Yeah.
talk about intimacy, it's like one way to be intimate is to respect people's boundaries, what they can and cannot tolerate. So even, for example, I used to kind of get jealous when I used to go to the fertility clinic back in the day, before COVID, when the partners were totally allowed to come in freely, right? So on the weekends, I would see like women and their partners in their room, and I'm always there on my own, right? So I go back and report this to Jean-Louis. I'm like, hey, I saw so many husbands with their wives at the clinic. And he's like, good for them. And he's like, I'm good for other things. And I went, you know what? You're right. It's true. So it's like, we can't compare our journeys with other people. And it's like, my partner doesn't do this or it does do that. Because I'll just speak for myself. It's very easy to fall into the pit of, oh, what is my partner not doing for me versus what is he doing? So it's like the reflection now is like, to be more intimate with your partner, to get that sexy on is like actually acknowledge and see, what are they doing?
Yeah.
How are they making me feel? Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Go ahead, Tanya. Did you have anything?
I was going to say, you're so cute. I was going to say that I think it helps to have your partner kind of let you feel your emotions, cry, get angry, but the detailed stuff where you feel like you need to solve the problem, or they need to solve the problem, because I hate to gender size, but men in general do tend to want to come up with a solution. And in this case, there is none. There is no solution to infertility. There might be with the fertility clinic or, finding like the solutions around the obstacles. But if we're going to them to download, we almost have to preface that with it. Like we're just downloading. We just need your emotional support.
Yeah.
And then when they get almost too emotional with us, sometimes that's a sign of like weakness. They feel like they're weak, and it emasculates them. So we almost have to have that boundary up to let them feel, so they're not kind of like, it's this like fine teeter-totter, this balance between, okay, I need to download, but having somebody external to just let you hash it out and go in circles, so you're not caught in a trap of trying to problem solve. You're just really just wanting to download and cry and get angry and, and then release it, and then not put that on your partner. So I think it is so helpful to have somebody outside, and even a regular acupuncturist, they often become the counselor, like they're very good at listening, even if it's just that like 10 minutes before the needles are going in, and then you're just put into this like calm, relaxed state, processed, downloaded.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, it's important to remember that you're on the same team, and it can be hard, especially when like, usually in a fertility journey, like I've heard lots of stories where it's a double factor. So we've got male factor and female factor, but when it's one or the other, and in our situation, it felt like very one-sided. It's so important not to blame and not to let your partner take on the blame for that. Because I just said, like, I picked you before I picked kids. And so we're in this together. I don't care what we have to do, but we're having kids together. We're not going to, this isn't going to make or break us. This is it. We're in this together. And so just remembering like we're on the same team and we can figure this out. It's just DNA. That's it. That's all it is. It's just cells, and
I think also sharing the need, like, for example, Mary, I was the same. I was kind of jealous of those women who would show up with their partners, and I was in there for treatments, assessments, whatever. But I never really said specifically, frankly, I need you to come to these appointments because it would make me feel this way. Instead, I just had a lot of resentment after, like I didn't actually communicate like, oh, they have partners. I'd just be like, okay, just suck it up, Tanya, whatever, just go. He doesn't want to go, whatever. Never really sat down to have the conversation.
And this is where exactly Erin says it's so important. Communication. Communication is key to this intimacy process. And 2 is the boundaries set by yourself, boundaries set by your partner, where you communicate that, right? So that's 2. The third one, what were you saying about like just doing other things together? right? If we're just going to try everything, put it back into a bow, right? It's like, how do we keep this intimacy
Travel,
alive?
don't put the brakes on everything, act like you're, like, or be, you were saying, what would we do if we didn't have kids? And let's just act like that because we have this
Right.
advantage to just
Yeah.
go traveling and maybe have a little alcohol or whatever. I don't know what you did,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so you're freed up. And
Mhm.
then with that, I think is so important, the pause,
Yeah.
right? The
And I
break
think,
is the pause.
yeah, and to give each other space to pause. If one person's feeling like they want to push forward now, but the other one isn't, try and like find some common ground and compromise. And I could speak from like the experiences that I've heard in our support groups, because I hear these stories every month, and a lot of people bring like the things that they're processing in their relationships to our support groups, and they talk about those things. And so just hearing, one woman who she was like forging forward, going back to back to back to back. And finally her partner said, we have to stop because you're going to hurt yourself. This isn't good for you, because he cared, the most about what happens to her and how it was impacting them as a couple. And I just thought that's so key, to like take your partner loves you, your partner's there, you're in this together. So like listen to each other. I always thought like he knows me the best, more like better than anybody. And so if he's telling me I'm going too hard or I'm fighting, then I should listen, because he wants the best for me and our relationship. I hope that's the case for most of the people out there. But I know that relationships they're so difficult too. And this is the hardest thing you'll ever go through.
So you just mentioned your group. So why don't we share that again? So go to myfertology.com, where we're going to put up, actually, what is the website?
oasisfsn.com.
Okay, we'll have it on our website. We'll have links to that. And you can go to the next support group, which is every third Monday of the month, 7:30 p.m. local time. And you have different locations. And one of which right now we're so proud of is at Alive Holistic Health. So connect. And I think you can sign up and register, right?
Yes,
is that how it works?
Yeah. So we ask that everybody RSVP or sign up through the link on our website. It's just a 5-question fillable Google Doc. And that just gives our team the knowledge of who's going to be our conversation starter, the knowledge of who's going to be attending that group, so they know your first name when you arrive. And we know who's there for the first time or maybe who's coming back again. It gives us the information so that we know if there's going to be too many people in one group, so we can create a waiting list, because we don't like to overload the space when there's only one person sort of creating the space for the conversation to be had. So all of those things, which is why it's important to sign up, and it just helps us be able to manage the expectations a bit better. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And we spoke more to this in our last episode. So go check that out. And please subscribe, like, share, because this conversation is super important. And we have, 97 episodes right now. And actually, before that, we had another 50 episodes. So we have so much insight and knowledge to share coming from the heart, not just pure information, right? It's about absorbing and being present and like truly help you navigate this journey. And of course, you can reach out to Tanya and I directly and book with us and our team at AliveHolisticHealthClinic.ca. See you guys next time. Have a great day.